Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. Welcome back to Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that helps you navigate the challenges and changes of life and to live a more vibrant second half. Today, I have an inspiring guest, Melissa Davey. She is going to inspire women to realize that no matter where you've been in your life, you can jump off where you are and face the fear. Melissa Davey has become a documentary filmmaker. After years as a corporate vice president, she left that career to create a documentary called Beyond 60. Melissa, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I am so excited about what you did. As soon as I found you on Instagram and you said yes to me, I immediately went to Amazon Prime and I watched your Beyond 60 documentary. Give us a little bit of a history of what made you leave this amazing illustrious career of travel and management and vice presidency to write a documentary.
Well, it was really the clock. It was, I was, had been in this corporate job for more than 2 decades. And we were just about to be bought out again by another private equity company. And I knew at that point that I was going to be asked to sign up again for another 5 years. I was 65 then. So picture me sitting there at 65. I loved my job. There was no pressure to leave. There wasn't any ageism within the company, which was amazing. It was kind of like, oh gosh, do I want to be sitting here at 70? And there was always a joke with my colleagues. I was like, I don't want to die at my desk. And they would laugh. But I think I said it because I think I really meant it. Like I didn't want that to be the end. So when I was talking to my CEO and he was like, so what are you going to do? You're going to sign up, or are you going to do something else? Or what do you want to do? Think about it. So I started this inventory, sitting down and thinking about all the things that I hadn't done that I was very interested in, and checking off things that were ridiculous, like learning to play a saxophone when I don't even read music, but I would really love to be in a band and play a saxophone. So I kind of took that off the list because I thought, well, it's going to take me so long to learn it. How old will I be then? And documentary film just kept floating to the top. Films, I never went to school for filmmaking. I really didn't know what I was doing, but I love film and I love storytelling and I love hearing stories, telling stories. And it just kept eating at me. So something weird happened. And that is, I was at a meeting in DC, a congressional meeting about, my business. And I walked out of there feeling like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. This is just like deja vu. Every time I go to meet with anybody in Congress, the meeting was the same for at least 10 years running. They didn't change very quickly down there. And I remember thinking, I got to do something else. I have to. So I left that meeting. And instead of going back to work that day, I met up with a friend. And she, I hadn't seen her in a while because I was too busy as usual. And so she said, well, could you come for a ride with me to pick up her daughter from school? And I said, sure. And we were dropping her daughter off at a horse barn near where we live in Chester County, Pennsylvania. And she said, I come up here every day and I think they're making a movie over there. And so we looked over, and after we dropped her daughter off, we came back around and we sat down and I said, oh, and it looked kind of scary, spooky, like an old farmhouse. We were in the middle of the woods. And I said, I bet I know who it is. And she was like, how could you possibly know who it is? I said, think about it. Look at the set looks so weird and scary. It's probably M. Night Shyamalan. He lives here and he does movies that are weird and scary. So I pulled out the iPhone, looked up M. Night Shyamalan, and sure enough, his website showed a picture of where we were sitting at that moment. This strange driveway with craggly trees. And I thought, oh, so it's him. And it said, he's doing a micro-budget film in Chester County, Pennsylvania. And then we saw this little red button on the website that said Charity Buzz. So I hit it. I didn't know what it was. And it said, win a day on the set with M. Night Shyamalan. And all of the proceeds would go to his educational foundation. So I hit the thing and she's like, you have to do it. You have to do this. You have to try. Wouldn't it be a blast? And I thought, well, okay. So I started betting, putting money in, hoping to win a day on the set and trying not to blow my savings. And so it ended up, the short version is I won the day on the set with M. Night Shyamalan when he was doing his film, The Visit. And there was a scene where it took a full day in Philadelphia at the Amtrak station. And so I win this thing and, sign all the NDAs and show up at the given time, early in the morning.
Yeah.
Thinking that, oh, he's going to put me in a chair and let me watch. No, he had me right behind the camera with him, asking me questions about what I was seeing, what did I think, and telling me what he was doing. And I'm telling you, the feeling that I got in the pit of my stomach was unbelievable. Like I was on a roller coaster. I had so much fun. I was with him for 10 hours that day, doing all sorts of things. And at lunch, we sat together and he said, what do you do for work? And this is a guy that's only been a filmmaker. And he was, 20 years younger than me. So I'm trying to explain Social Security, disability, insurance, blah, blah, blah. And he looked quizzically at me and he said, what do you really want to do? And I said, oh, I want your job. And he said, well, you better hurry up. So that was like a 4-second conversation that was off the cuff. He was joking. And that was, again, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought, well, that's true. If I want to do something completely different, I better hurry up. At that point, I was 65. So I went home that night and said to my husband, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to make a film. So that's how it happened.
That is such an incredible story. Oh my goodness.
It's pretty bizarre.
It is so cool though. The serendipitous things that happened that one day.
Yeah.
You chose not to go to work. You chose to go with a friend. You chose to go on this little errand with her and you land in the driveway of a film set. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I mean, so it was like, it was a message for sure that if you're going to do anything, you better hurry up. So I did. I said to my husband, I'm going to do this. And he kind of, looked at me quizzically, but he kind of knows me. So he thought, well, you never know what she might do. And just let it be. And then the next day I went to work and told the CEO, I'm going to give you a nice long notice because I wanted to make sure I had built this division for the company and I needed to mentor somebody to take over. And I also needed to figure out what was this film going to be and how was I even going to possibly figure out how to do it? So I gave a year's notice. And during that time, I was not only able to make sure that the company was in good hands when I left, but I had all those months to find a production company, to meet with people, to start finding the women, and to start doing my interviews before I walked out the door. So it was really planned in that regard. And that made me feel more secure about such a drastic change. I wasn't, I don't want to be cavalier and say, oh yes, I just became a filmmaker overnight. No, it was, I realized I had to figure out how was I really going to do this because I really wanted to do it. So for the next almost 3 years, that's what I did. I found a production company and we partnered together and they were all younger, much, much younger. So there's a nice intergenerational piece to this. And they taught me the ropes. They taught me about filming and cameras and lights and sound. And, and I found all the women and did all the setup of the filming that we were going to do all over the country. And that's what we did for the next almost 3 years before we were finished and ready to go to, film festivals, which we did for a year as well.
How did you decide which women? How did you find these women? They were very diverse. It was really cool.
Yeah, I was basing the whole idea of doing this film was based on the fact that I was an older woman who, had plenty of stories to tell, and that I knew that there were millions of older women that probably had stories a lot better than mine. So my goal was to do something that I was comfortable with, something that I could relate to, and that was me. So it was finding women through Google searches, asking friends, making cold calls. I called between 80 and 100 women that year,
Wow.
trying to find the women that I thought would be interesting enough, and a swath of the general public of people that when someone watched it, they could relate to at least one of the people. And that's sort of how it happened. And these women, why did I choose them? It was kind of like a gut thing. It was the way we got on during our conversations. It was the way that we were communicating, and their interest in me doing this. They had an interest in, wow, you're going to be a filmmaker. Wow, this is cool. Thanks for asking. And I think the thing that was really amazing to me is that these 9 women that I interviewed, they knew that I was a first-time filmmaker. They knew that I was 65 at the time. And when I asked them if they would be in the film, they each just said yes. And I was kind of blown away by that, because they trusted me to take their story and do whatever I was going to do with it to make it fit into this film. And they never saw the film, before it was released. They never saw clips other than the short little trailers that we did. They just trusted me to do that. So I was completely blown away by that, and then emboldened to make sure that I did the best job I could possibly do, to make sure that their story was not only accurate, but would be inspiring, because I found each of the women inspiring in their own way.
And it's so interesting too, isn't it? Because I think sometimes we feel like it has to be some kind of a grandiose, amazing story, right? We feel like if it's not this, then it can't be anything else.
Exactly. These
But
are
we don't.
regular, everyday women, some who have more education than others, some who have no or very limited education, but each talking about their life story and finding ways to inspire themselves to keep going, and finding that they didn't want to stop, that they wanted to continue to learn or do something new or create, or challenge themselves with something big. It's such an interesting group of women, I thought. And that's the feedback that I get from the people who have watched it. So yeah, I didn't want to go out and find, a celebrity that had, made $1 billion doing something wonderful. That I wanted people like me, just regular people, that lived a kind of regular, normal life with lots of challenges and successes and not successes, and to just see where they are and what their hopes are for the future.
And they're not done. That whole idea that, they're hopeful for the future, and they're waking up tomorrow expecting life to be something, which I think is an incredible mindset.
Yeah. And these women, at the time that I interviewed them, were between 63 and 87. And, they each had their own story about keep going. Even, one of them, Pat, one of the Sun City Palms, she has since passed away. And she talked in the film about having terminal cancer. But, according to her doctors, she should have died 10 years prior. But she kept focused, busy, she had important work to do every day and it didn't matter. She just did it. And I think that's why she stayed with us as long as she did. She worked right up until the end. So yeah, she was very inspiring to me, especially around somebody as old as she was, late 80s, very ill for more than a decade, but plugging away and working through pain or whatever it might be with such a positive attitude. Yeah, she was extremely inspiring.
Now, how did this journey impact you? Like
Oh,
going through this, what was the impact on you?
I mean, the impact was just like a confirmation that it doesn't matter how old I am, that I can do whatever I want if I'm willing to try to do that. If I can stay healthy, and I have my aches and pains like everybody else, but if I can stay healthy and stay interested, that I can continue to learn. And as I continue to learn about people, I learn about myself. So every single one of these films and these experiences with each of these women made me think about myself and, how I view the world and how I might view something that they say, and how I might need to adjust that thinking. And it really, I don't know, there's something about getting older. You only have a limited amount of time left, whatever that is. I don't know if I have 20 years, I don't know. But I want to continue to learn and become a better person. I mean, that's always been my goal, is to improve on myself. I have all kinds of faults, like the average person. And, doing something creative like this, where I'm dealing with other people, it helps me become a better person somehow.
It expands your perspective, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to be connected to the bigger world and, provide something that's positive, as opposed to just being in my job forever or just being with my family. It's not like family isn't enough. And I have children and grandchildren, and I love them to death, and a wonderful husband, but there's more to the world, and there's more that the world can learn from each one of us, if we're willing to step into it, and step out of our comfort zones, I think.
I think you and I share a similar mission, right? Is to find women who are doing things that are inspiring, who
Right.
are living, if you will, with
Yes.
they're doing things, they're sharing their message, and that message that I also speak to people who are not celebrities.
Right.
But there's so many people out there with a story to tell, with a message to share.
That's right.
It's just there's an endless resource out there, and to find these people and give them an opportunity to have a voice.
Right.
You
And,
just don't know.
And women are funny in that, a lot of, I mean, I will say this from my own experiences, as well as some of the women that I've interviewed, is they will say, we've been taught to be quiet. We've been taught to not talk about ourselves, to not talk about our accomplishments, because that's boasting, and I remember little tiny messages like that when I was growing up, just, don't talk about yourself, that's not nice, or, and that's crazy. I mean, that's something that I hope all women are experiencing, that thought process of, why shouldn't I toot my horn? I'm so proud that I made this film, and that I'm going to continue to make films, and that I did a good enough job and learned from it so that I can keep getting better at it, and that it brings something to other people, that it's a lesson for other people as well. So I'm giving back, and that's a good thing. And we should talk about that. And all of these women, an example, the woman who swam the English Channel, Paula,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Her husband said, "You're too old to do this."
Yes.
When she said, "I want to try it," "Oh, you're too old." And then, the next clip, there she goes. Well, we should be talking about that. And when I asked her to be in the film, her humble little self said to me, "You think people would think that's interesting?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You should be yelling this on top of a mountain in
All the
Vermont."
awards that she has.
Yes.
I looked her up, of course, after I watched the film. I checked
Yeah.
out some of these women and I just thought, wow,
Yeah.
this is one woman living
Yep.
life. And she finds out she's a really great swimmer, and she's not built the way we think of like an Olympian
Exactly.
swimmer. And that's even more inspiring. It's like she's
Right.
a normally shaped woman,
Yes.
and
And
she is a tank in the water. Like she can
she
just swim
sure
for
is.
miles. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. She's an amazing, inspiring woman.
Yeah.
And she should be yelling at this out to the world so that younger women, I love it when younger women watch the film. They're like, wow, I could still be doing things when I'm older, because a lot of them have this, misconception that when they're 50 or when they're whatever, that everything will slow down and, things
We're
will
a carton of
change.
milk. There's some kind of expiration date, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So, yeah.
but we hear that in our community, in our age group too, though.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
do I know? Do I know that that's the
I know.
absolute outcome, that, you have to expect
Exactly.
these XYZ things? I don't know. I mean, life is life, living is living, and capabilities, maybe physical capabilities can shift, but
Right.
the mind, the things that we can create with that,
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
it really
So,
is.
yeah, so I'm having a blast with it. It's hard work. It's different hard work than the hard work I did before. And it's on my schedule. I can do it when I want to, which I love. I love that part of not having a 9 to 5, expectation on me. But just to think that I can continue to do this as long as I can stand up. And then maybe, who knows, maybe I'll, I'm working on my second film now, and maybe I'll do a third and a fourth. I don't know. Or maybe I do play the saxophone. I don't know. I don't know. There could be, I realize now that I have to be open enough to maybe see that there might be something else that I haven't done yet that's going to present itself, and that I can get excited about. And that's what I've heard from some people on the negative side, like, why would you do this? You're almost 72 years old. What, don't you want to relax? And I'm like, well, I do relax in between, making films, but this is so exciting. And, and if you're not doing something that excites you, I would hope people would go find out what it is that excites you. You might be surprised, and then try that, and then if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. You go and you find the next thing. And I think we're just so programmed to say that at a certain age, we're done with whatever career we had or whatever work we had. And it's time to rest.
Or what's appropriate or inappropriate at whatever age.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there were a few people that thought what I was doing was pretty weird, just all of a sudden saying, hey, I'm a filmmaker now. They were like, why would you do that? Yeah.
I find that people, it seems like, if you are trailblazing in some way, and this is a trailblazing venture that you went on, I mean, you literally made a 180 and went a direction you've never gone.
Right.
That can, I think, sometimes make some people feel judged. You're not judging them. But
right.
when we make choices in our life that people thought an expiration date was on,
yeah,
and you blow past that expiration date, I really think that people feel like it can cause regret, it can cause a lot of emotions for people. I think
and I've seen that, and I am aware. You're absolutely right, and I am aware of that. And I'm also aware now, and there were moments with a couple people that were close to me that I felt bad even talking about it, because I knew that they were judging themselves about maybe the 5 things that they wanted to do, but they didn't do for 100 different reasons, some of them good reasons. So yeah, I tiptoed with that, but now it's kind of like, I'm excited about this, and I have to be who I am. And most people will be able to respond to that. And the ones that can't, I just, pray that they figure out that they probably have time to do whatever it is that they were curious about in their lifetime, and hope that they do it, and not just sit down. Whether it's, I'm not bragging about being a filmmaker. I'm saying it could be something wonderful like, volunteer work. There's so many agencies out there that need volunteers. So you do that part-time, and you're helping other people and inspiring other people, by your acts of work in that environment. And that's really, really important. But I think people get stuck with fear, thinking that they don't know. I don't know how to do that, so I can't do it. Or I've never done that, so I can't do it. And I would say, try not to say that, and try to say, I'm really interested in that, even though I haven't done it. What would I need to do to try it? That's all. What would I need to set up in order to try whatever that is? And it's, to me, it's a very logical approach to trying anything, and knowing that you might fail or you might not like it. And that's okay. You can put it aside and go to the next thing on the list and try that. We just have so many opportunities in life that we don't grab because we think we can't or we aren't supposed to.
Now there's a struggle, isn't it?
Yes.
That we're not supposed to, or what is acceptable, appropriate.
Yeah, what's appropriate. Yeah.
We do have a lot of that messaging as women. I think that's why we're so drawn to women that do amazing things, but we still hold ourselves back from that being
Absolutely.
possible for us, right? We're inspired by it, but it's over there, and
Yeah.
But the greatness and the courage are different for each person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And somebody did ask me recently, like, why did you wait till you were 65 to become a filmmaker? I said, well, it wasn't a plan. I didn't know I was going to be a filmmaker until I was 65. I think that I wouldn't have been ready at 55. Obviously, I was immersed in what I was doing. I was okay with what I was doing. I was happy with it. And I hadn't challenged myself yet. And maybe the fear factor was there. I don't know, but I think it took me till 65 to realize that, holy crap, my life is getting shorter and shorter. And there are so many opportunities out there. Well, which ones can I grab before I can't grab anymore? And so it took me to that time in my life where I felt the most confident to be able to step out. Maybe I wouldn't have been as confident at 55,
I do. I think sometimes I think about this, and it's like, we can either, regret all the time that's passed and continue to waste time on that. Right. Or like you said, go, well, maybe now is the right time. Right. Maybe we didn't miss anything. Maybe this is the time. So get on with it.
Right.
Whatever it is. And to your point, we have to be willing, when we try something new, to maybe not be as good at it in the real world as we are in our head. There's
exactly. I mean, failure. Life is all about steps and failures. I mean, in business, I had this great job with great responsibility, and I built the division myself, but I made a ton of mistakes during those decades of doing that. And that's how I learned to improve. So, by the time that I jumped into filmmaking, the fear about failure it was pretty cloudy. It was like I was ignoring it because I already knew that I could fail and fix and fail and fix. And that's life, I think. And I think that we all think that, oh my gosh, if I'm making an announcement that I'm going to do this new thing, I better be really good at it, or people are going to judge me if I don't do well. Well, I think as you get older, you kind of like, so what? Let them, you know.
I haven't got time or energy for
Right.
you and your opinions.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about the direction you're going with your next film.
Yeah, it's exciting. There was a hiatus because of COVID. You know, I did film festivals in 2019 all year with Beyond 60. And then in 20, I started looking for distribution, and that's when COVID hit. So I did get distributed in early 2021. And so the film's been out there now for a year. But I was antsing to do another film. I knew I wanted to do another. So I started looking for women's stories, and I thought, you know, this time instead of doing 9, I think I'll go to one woman, find a woman's story, and try to bring that to life. And I did, and I finished filming in California in May, and I'm in post-production now. I hope to have a trailer out for that film by the end, hopefully by the end of this month. And then start on the big process of the film. But it's called Climbing into Life. And it is about a remarkable woman named Deirdre Wallonick. And she is the mother of Alex Honnold, who is the person that you see in the documentary Free Solo. So there's a connection with him in the story. It's very, very interesting. She's an extremely inspiring woman. And that film, I hope that you will get to see sometime next year.
You know, I think there are more people, maybe not as dramatic as her story, but there are so many people that are doing amazing things.
Yeah.
Every day, but they don't know they're amazing.
I know. They don't know. And when you interview them, for the most part, people will say, are you really? You think this is interesting? What do you think people will say? Or, you know, how will people view this? Or will they think I'm bragging? Or no, it's just your story. And your story is going to resonate with a number of people. It's going to resonate.
You think about like what people watch on YouTube. A lot of the most popular things are literally people just living life. Like it's not content in the sense of curated. It's just like, I remember one time I got on there and I was trying to figure out what this particular woman, why was she so popular? And I watched, I think, 10 minutes of one of her videos. And she was literally just crying about what a mess her life was. And there was like 1 million views on this video. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? Could it be, you know, oh, my life's not that bad. You know, they're watching her feel better about themselves. I don't know. But we as humans are so interested in other people. You know, we're curious about other people. And so I think what you're doing is so powerful because you are curating. You're finding people whose message is just, you're inspired by it. This is how I see it.
Yes,
absolutely. And that comes through in the film. And so it will have an impact. And I think we underestimate, maybe not you, but I think as women, we underestimate, like you said, well, is it going to be interesting? We underestimate the power of our own story, is I think what I'm trying to
Right. And I, you know, it's interesting now that the film's been out there for a year, I get and thousands of people have watched it all over the world now. And I get lots of emails and, you know, messages from people saying how 1 or 2 or 3 particular stories had inspired them to do X. And, you know, and let me tell you what I'm doing now because I watched your film. I mean, that is like, oh, you know, one of those messages meant that I did something that helped somebody else. And that was my goal, not only to have the fun part of figuring out how to make a film, but to make a film that's going to impact somebody, to help them get out of a chair and do something that they've wanted to do for 40 years. I mean, and I get a lot of these messages. I also get messages from men, which is really interesting because I figured my main demographic would be older women, because the stories are about older women. A lot of men saying, hooray for you for finally getting women to, tout their experiences and talk about all of the things that they do to make them so unique and so wonderful. So that gave me like this, wow, there's really cool men out there too, that actually can appreciate their wives, their girlfriends, their friends, and appreciate the women in the film and encourage, women filmmakers to keep going and look for this type of content. And also for young women. If you notice, I did have young women in the film at the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
And there've been a lot of young women that watch it that say, wow, my life won't be over at 50. And I'm like, hardly.
And what an empowering message, because we're kind of, as women, you and I, in different ways, we're trying to dismantle a belief system that it's only true because we accept it.
Exactly.
It's not true, obviously. That's what
Right.
these women prove. But
Right.
why are we able to look at someone else and go, well, that's okay for you, but
Right.
I missed my opportunities? And I think
Yes.
your message says, hey, you took the opportunities you took. Now, which
Yeah.
ones do you want to take?
Right.
It
And
doesn't mean
take
you missed
them.
anything. Just take them.
Yeah. And you're never too old. Age is not, and I'm saying this as a woman that's about to turn 72.
Yeah.
Some people would say, wow, that's old. Well, I guess in a sense it is. Yeah, it's a lot of years. But so what? If you could still do it, why not? Why impose an age on what activity you want to try? Oh, I will tell you, I can't run. I can't. There's no way that my low back and my hips would allow me to become a runner. So I know that, so I won't attempt that one. But creatively speaking, if your brain is still working, you're just never too old to try something new. And your story shouldn't be about your age. It should be about your adventures and what you have planned to do in the future. And it doesn't have to be extravagant. So maybe you don't have enough money to do something that you would consider to be extravagant. So do something small and do it well and enjoy it. And if it brings you joy, it's going to bring other people joy as well. It's I don't know. Getting old is kind of interesting.
Well,
and I will say, I have 3 grandsons, wonderful boys. And one of them recently said to me, just leaned over and said, he said, they call me Grammy. And he was like, Grammy, I can't believe I have a grandmother that makes movies. He said, I don't know any kids that have grandmothers that make movies. He said, you know what? That's pretty cool. You should keep making them. So I thought, okay, so I inspired my grandson to see that older women don't just bake cookies. We do other things too. So,
look at us. We actually have, and that's the thing, the capabilities.
Yeah.
I always try to encourage people to think, look back over your life, make a list of everything you've ever done. Doesn't matter if you entered a contest at 12 or you did an art show, whatever, just look at seriously the thousands of things we've probably accomplished.
Absolutely.
I think they get hung up on the greatness part, and we just need to really focus on the living part and let it be whatever it's going to be in the world. But that fulfillment, that expressing that gift that you have, it's really living, isn't it? Yes,
it is living. And living in a way that is very positive for your aging process. The more you're active with your brain, the better off you're going to be as you age. And there have been enough studies that show that the people that just stop and sit down and really don't partake as much as they could in life, they age faster, they have more ailments, they ache more. You know, all of these things, or depression is a big one. And a lot of times you read about aging and depression related to the fact that the person stopped working or stopped doing. And they're, you know, they've just shut down thinking that, okay, well, I'm done. I'm going to sit here. But, you know, that's just not, it's not right unless you're so ill that you can't get up and do something. And again, it doesn't have to be anything big. It just has to be something new and creative that will get your juices going.
Give you a reason to get out of bed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've noticed that about myself, that I need some kind of purpose when I get up. I need to know that there's something that I'm working on, that I'm responsible for, that makes me have this purpose when I get up. I need that. And I don't mean that I work every day. Some days I stay in my pajamas until, you know, it's noontime. And that's the lovely part of not having a corporate job anymore. I can, maybe it's a lazy day and I'm not working on films or anything else, and I'm reading a book and I'm relaxing. It's just an awesome feeling to be able to create this space that makes you comfortable, but at the same time, you're continuing to do something that helps to improve your brain and your thought process.
And specifically what you do is contribution. You know, it's a different way of contributing to society and shifting thought patterns, shifting mindsets, shifting attitudes toward pro-aging, and honoring that journey instead of being afraid of it.
Exactly. And that's what I hope I hope I do that. I do have that in mind when I'm doing the films. I try to keep that in mind, as, you know, how will this help somebody else when they hear this story? You know, what will they think about? Because it certainly makes me think. And again, you know, you're seeing this version of a film in an hour and a half. I was with these 9 women for each of them for an entire day. So the stories were amazing that I got to hear, and just the challenge to yourself to say, well, maybe I should think about that a little differently, because I grew up thinking this way, but I just heard this story that makes me want to challenge that a little. And I love doing that. And I think I just didn't have time to think about it when I was younger and busy. You know, you've got your family, and like I said to you earlier, it's like being on this fast train. You have family, you have work, you have all these immense responsibilities, and you rarely take time to look at yourself and say, what am I doing? How am I thinking about it? You just kind of get in the groove, and this is how you live. And hopefully it's a good way to live. But as I got older and slower, as far as giving myself time to look at everything about myself, I had a lot of questions like, why would you think that way? Or why did you do it that way? And then having these conversations with people like you and others, it just creates this, this space for you to really look at yourself and what you're doing and what you have done, and then how to take that forward. It's an amazing time in life.
You know, and I think there's a study that says something about the life satisfaction of people over 70 is the highest.
I get that. I mean, I keep saying, if I can stay healthy, this is what a wild ride, because almost anything is possible. Almost anything that you really, really want to do is possible to try. You know, maybe not succeed at, but to try. And that's kind of exhilarating when you get this old, to say, wow, what's next? You know, what am I going to do next? And how much fun will it be? And you can be your own boss maybe, and which is awesome, that you're not, you know, beholden to a company or someone else to show what you've done. You're just beholden to yourself.
Right. And no one is telling you what you can and can't do except yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Melissa, if you were to give like 3 words of encouragement or ideas that you would want women listening to this, and there are men who listen as well, what would you want them to know?
Something that has worked for me in my life that I tell lots of people, especially younger people, is follow the detours. I know it sounds crazy, but like that day that I took that detour and didn't go back to work because I was frustrated, and I went on this dirt road, and look what happened. I know it's kind of weird and magical that day, but if you only drive the same way to work every day, if you only go to the same restaurants over and over, you're going to miss something. And for me, it has always been take that other road, never go to work the same way, just mix it up, look, and see what's there in front of you, because something might present itself. And if there's something interesting enough for you to look at twice, maybe you should stop, get out and go, check it out. I mean, people really need to take detours in life, because that's how they're going to find something that's off their regular route. And we're all such routine animals because that makes us comfortable. But step out of the comfort zone and take the detour. That would be my suggestion.
That's fantastic. And so I want to thank you so much, Melissa, for saying yes to me, a complete stranger, and sharing several, just powerful thoughts and your perspective and your journey, because I think it's empowering to not just hear it like it, oh, you can do it, but talking to women that do it. It is whatever they want to do, and are living a full and vibrant life in a way that's in alignment with them. And I'm so grateful to have had this time with you, to see your vibrancy, to share in your excitement, the energy that you bring and that joy. I just so inspired by you, and I'm so grateful that you said yes to me.
Well, I'm very grateful that you reached out to me. The more we can all talk together as women, especially, the better off we're all going to be. So your messaging to your listeners is very positive. I mean, you have a positive podcast, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Very thankful.
Awesome. Well, is there a way that people can find you? Please remind us where we can find your documentary Beyond 60 and where we can connect with you.
It's streaming right now on most platforms like Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Vimeo, Vudu, Google TV. And if you have cable TV, it's also on demand. So you would go into where you watch movies and in the search bar, write in Beyond 60, and that's SIXTY. We have a website, beyond60.com, and then we're also on Facebook and Instagram. So follow us and watch the film and get in touch with me and let me know how it inspired you.
Awesome. And as someone who has seen it, fantastic. Such an inspiration. Thank you so much for taking that courageous step, because, think of the synchronicities or the serendipitous things. I'm here having a conversation with you who I wouldn't be able to meet probably. We're on opposite sides of the United States, but because I took a step over here and you took a step over there, our paths crossed, and what a joy that is.
It's been great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. All right, friends. I have had Melissa Davey on today. She's a documentary filmmaker of Beyond 60. She's got her second film. She's getting it together to put out into the world. So go check her out. And if something has been niggling in your mind during this conversation, that's your sign. That's your signal to say yes. Just say yes to one little thing. Give yourself a chance to try something new. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be art. It can be music. It could be writing a book. It could be walking a certain amount of time, like literally, like just getting healthy again. It could be a million things. just say yes to yourself. And remember that as long as you're here, you still have work to do, things to experience, people to love. Don't stop. Live every day to the last drop. Thank you for joining us today. And if you head over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 278, I will have links to Melissa. And you can also find us everywhere on all major platforms for our podcast. Thank you for being with us today, Melissa. Thank you again. Have a wonderful
Thank you.
day.